There were sections with crown molding and then pieces where they just didn't even bother putting more crown molding. They just said it didn't quite make it to the doorway, so we'll just leave it blank.
Welcome to the RE Real Estate Podcast, where we discuss buying and selling real estate in black and white. Here are your hosts, Ben Harang and Clint Galliano.
Hello, everybody. This is Ben Harang. Welcome to another episode of RE Real Estate Podcast with my co-host today, Clint Galliano. How you doing today, Clint?
Doing wonderful, Ben. How you doing?
Clint, I'm doing terrific. Had a little rain shower here this morning. It cleared up. Sun's out. Things are drying off. Life is good in Thibodaux, Louisiana.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So what are we talking about today?
All right. So we're talking about, topics we should cover. And we got to talking about HGTV and how we both kind of feel like some of the real estate related shows on there are kind of a joke. You know, how they can renovate a house in 30 minutes and get it sold. And it's just poppycock, I guess is a nice way to put it.
And run into all kind of surprises and deal with it and still finish it in 30 minutes.
In 30 minutes.
That's amazing.
So today we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of flip houses.
So let's talk about the good. Clint and I were talking about a scenario earlier. You know, you walk into a house and you can tell if somebody just put the proverbial lipstick on a pig or they got down to the bones and rebuilt it, and the finishes look like new construction. And it doesn't take long to figure it out. The fit and finish of a quality flip house. The flip house has, in my mind, a negative connotation because we generally see people cutting corners to try to maximize their profit and get out quickly. But somebody that does it the right way, takes their time, they put in quality material, quality workmanship, and when they're done, the doors close properly. They don't hang or drag. There's no paint on the door hardware. There's no paint on the floor around the baseboards. The AC registers are not painted over. There's things like that, just the small details. They'll pick mid-range appliances and not put in a used appliance they had in a shop somewhere. Or like I told Clint earlier, that stove that was in here, that 2 out of the 4 burners work, that's good enough. We're gonna just leave that in there. We're not gonna spend the money on a new stove. The quality flips take care of all that. When you're looking at a flip house, look at it through very critical eyes and flush out any problems there might be. But if you find a good one, it should be it won't be a new construction, but the fit and finish should be like new construction.
I recently ran across lipstick on a pig flip. I initially thought, and it may still be the case, I don't know. I didn't delve too deep into it. I initially thought that somebody had bought the house post Ida and, slapped a little bit of lipstick on it and was trying to sell it. They were trying to sell it for sale by owner for a premium. Mm-hmm. And then a discount broker out of Baton Rouge picked it up and has it listed now at a significant discount from what the for sale by owner was trying to sell it for. But after walking through and seeing some of the stuff left in the house, I'm thinking maybe it's a family member that did it. But some of the things that they did, it's like they put maybe a new faucet, a new light fixture, but then it looked like they used 1x6s for baseboards and didn't even sand them. They didn't quite fit all the way. There were gaps.
That's good enough.
You could tell that the drywall was installed at a certain point of time because it had the rounded corners, because there was a time when that was a popular thing. Mm-hmm. And so rather than making choices about fitting the baseboard around, they just cut it at an angle and put it in there with all the gaps in between the pieces of baseboard and various trim. There were sections with crown molding and then pieces where they just didn't even bother putting more crown molding. They just said it's, it didn't quite make it to the doorway, so we'll just leave it blank.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, various things like that. And it's like you could tell they painted it, they did some updates, but nowhere near enough for it to be an actual true flip.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally lipstick on a pig.
Yeah.
And by contrast, across the intersection, there was this other house, and it was obviously a flip. It was redone, so the brick was painted white. You could see where they did some updating. You walked inside, and it looked like a new construction home, new flooring, looked like new drywall throughout, solid surface countertops, new appliances. Everything was great, new air conditioning system, it was like, this is great.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the contrast, I guess you could say, between the two of how to do it right versus, I'm going to put a little effort into it and walk away with a bunch of cash.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing you can do if you're looking at a flip house, look at it through very critical eyes and ask a whole lot of questions, including getting copies of the permits that they got to do the work. Because what you don't want is a whole bunch of work done that is not permitted. It doesn't happen around here, but there's places in the country that will make you tear it out if it was unpermitted when it was done. But
And
just
if,
if
and if you piss off the municipal officials, even if you didn't do the work, they'll pull your power and let the mold start growing in your
yeah,
house
yeah,
if they don't want your business.
right, right. So, but just be look at it through critical eyes and ask a whole bunch of questions because the idea that it started as a flip, it's easy to hide things with paint and drywall. So dig deep into it and make sure your home inspector understands that it's a flip house and let them go through it with a fine tooth comb also. But just be very critical of it. I'm not saying don't buy it. You need to understand what you're buying and not be surprised because sometimes a poor flip house will look good. So you need to get past just the last coat of paint. Just because they're not good doesn't mean the finish won't be good. Sometimes the finish is very good, but the mechanics of the property were not dealt with properly.
Yeah.
So it could be deeper than just cosmetic.
All right. So we talked about the good, we talked about the bad. Let's talk about the ugly.
The
So, so,
well,
so
go ahead.
I've got ugly stories.
Go ahead.
As a client I worked with, they're an out of state flipper. So basically, they're a virtual flipper. So they find properties that they feel they can pick up for a good price and find local contractors to work on and then sell it and make some money on it.
Mm-hmm.
So the person that they were buying it from was was redoing the drywall in the house, and he had half the house hung with drywall and various other things. And
Mm-hmm.
at first glance, it was like, okay, well, this is kind of neat. And he had done the flooring in most of the house, and it looked okay. And
Mm-hmm.
then he recommended a contractor to the flipper. That guy wound up having issues in addition to flipping his Harley and
Oh.
getting hurt and to where he couldn't continue the work. And
Uh-huh.
so we had to bring in another contractor, and that contractor finished everything up, but he had to redo a lot of stuff.
Right.
And what we figured out was that the guy that the flipper bought the house from, he didn't gut the drywall. He just laid drywall on top of everything. And so all of your trim and your doorways and your outlets and all was sitting almost 3/4 of an inch
Right.
in a
Recessed.
hole. So that all had to be fixed. Half of the drywall where he was, it's kind of like that meme picture you see on Facebook where they cut all kinds of small pieces of drywall to fit these odd odd cuts and angles and stuff. Some spots were like that. Flooring is kind of the same thing. Instead of trimming the flooring to fit in the hole, he just said, "Oh, well, it's almost there. I'll just make it fit." And so there's like a bubble in the middle of the floor, and so all
Mhm.
kinds of stuff to have to take care of. And so those are some of the things. Another one is where you walk into a little rent house, a little shotgun house, and it's got fresh paint, vinyl plank flooring, and you start walking and you feel the floor moving under you. It looks beautiful, but then
Mhm.
you walk in it and you feel that there's no support under the floors. Doors don't open, or doors are sitting almost at an angle in the door frames, things like that. Those are the things you watch out for.
Or you're
And then
running
the
down
other,
you feels like you're running downhill from the front door to the back door
yeah,
because the foundation is not level.
exactly. And and probably the worst thing, like you were talking about, is where there's something in the walls that they just covered up.
Mhm.
Whether it's termites or mold or just rotten wood or whatever the problem is, and it just gets, well, we'll just put some drywall or some paneling over it and not worry about it.
Yeah, and you can't really see that when you're looking because if it's covered, it's covered, but you can get a pretty good idea of the quality of work that was done by looking at the house in its entirety. If there's mismatched fit and finish, you can suspect, can't guarantee, but you can suspect that they might have covered something up and didn't want to deal with whatever they covered up and figured nobody would ever know. And it'd be long gone by the time somebody found out.
Yeah, another clue is where you see the cut of the drywall sticking out the edge of the outlet plate.
Yeah,
That's another one that they maybe didn't do something right.
yeah. So there's small clues, but and even if it doesn't look pretty, it doesn't mean it's a bad job. It could just be strictly cosmetic. So you need to make your own decision on if you want to pursue a flip or not. But by all means, get a comfort level, understand what you're buying, and don't be surprised after the fact.
Yeah. And like Ben said, it's always a good idea to get a home inspector to go through it unless you have that level of sophistication already. Get a home inspector to check out the systems, check the roof, check under the house if it's on pier and beam,
Hmm.
check out the electrical, check out the plumbing, make sure all of that's in good shape.
And even if you can do it yourself, it's probably a good idea to bring in somebody else that is not attached to the house. Because you might like the house, you might like the neighborhood, you might have a family member living across the street. You might tend to overlook things because you really want the house. Well, the inspector won't care if you want the house or not. He's going to tell you what he finds. So I look at it as an objective opinion about the house. You can agree with him, you can disagree with him, but you have his opinion about the current condition of the house, which I think is a valuable tool to help you make the decision on whether or not you want to buy it.
Oh, and then one more thing to check is make sure that the either yourself or the inspector checks the laundry drain. So drain for the washing machine. Make
Yeah.
sure that that drain gets checked. This happened to me actually. We bought a house, renovated it, put tenants in it. First time they went to wash clothes, the washing machine backed up in the drain and flooded the laundry room.
Hmm.
And come to find out, they were on a community sewer, but the laundry room was on just draining into the old field drain from
Wow.
when they were on a septic. So
Wow.
it went into the grease trap and then out into the field drain. And because it was separate, it was never tied into the main sewer.
Hmm.
It had collapsed. And so we had to run a drain from that washing machine drain and tie into that main line going back into the community sewer.
Huh?
And we had two options, well, three options. We could have dug around the edge of the concrete patio off the back of the house and buried that drain there and hope we got enough drop through all of that.
Hmm.
Or we could have routed well, put a lift station in and put it all under the concrete. Or what we wound up doing is just ran it up against the house on the edge of the house slab with the drain, and then dropped down into the main washout.
Well, it worked.
It worked.
And then,
It's not pretty, but it works.
and you also knew you had enough fall for it too.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I said earlier about cosmetics. It might not be the prettiest, but the work was done right and it works and it's functional. So just because it's pretty doesn't mean you want to buy it. Just because it's ugly doesn't mean you don't want to buy it. That's what the inspection periods are for, and the inspectors, and dig into it and ask the difficult questions and see what the seller has to say about it. If you ask for permits and warranty on the appliances and stuff and you get no response or crickets from the seller, that's probably a pretty good indication that you probably want to move on and not buy that house. So,
all right, Ben, I think we've kind of covered it from top to bottom. We told a story or two.
We do tend to do that. And HGTV is, I know a lot of people like to watch it, but it's all set in Alice in Wonderland world. It has no basis in reality at all. So enjoy the production, because that's what it is. It's not based on reality. These things take time. They take money. You run into problems that you need to solve. It's an adventure to flip a house. So don't just run up as soon as it's finished and buy it just because you think it might look good. Just, again, ask those difficult questions and get some answers from the contractor, whoever's doing it, the seller, and make sure you get a comfort level and you understand what you're really buying. All right, Clint, I'm gonna shut up now.
All right, everybody go like, subscribe, comment, and share at realestatepodcast.com. You got all the things there. Ask a question, watch videos, subscribe at your favorite podcast app, leave us a message, all that fun stuff. All right, we got another one in the can. We'll see you next time.
All right,
see
Clint,
you
have
later,
a good
Ben.
one.
You too.
While we may discuss topics such as lending, interest rates, title law, real estate law, and appraisals in addition to real estate sales and transactions, please remember that we are only trained and licensed as real estate salespeople in Louisiana. The information shared on this podcast is for general purposes only and should not be taken as legal or financial advice. We may be agents, but unless we have signed paperwork stating otherwise, we are not your agents.